I'm completely a rookie in this part of the discussion.
I was really surprised.
Which is how the heart and the brain work together.
Check one, check.
What if we go from this kind of narrow focus on everything physical, everything material, everything known, to broadening and opening our focus and putting it on nothing? In the act of sensing space, we discovered when you're sensing, you're not analyzing and you're not thinking. In the cortex is the analytical mind. So as you're sensing space and you're no longer analyzing and thinking, you're no longer activating those different neurological networks in the brain. And all of a sudden, your brain goes from beta to alpha, but not any kind of alpha. Those different compartments of the brain that have been modulated and compartmentalized, they begin to unify, they begin to synchronize. And what syncs in the brain links in the brain, right? And that's coherence. Mm-hmm. So now the brain starts getting more orderly and you start feeling more like yourself. So the breathing is a great way to get the body to convert from sympathetic to parasympathetic. But the open and the broadened focus and sensing nothing in space is actually what allows us to get beyond our analytical mind, and what separates our conscious mind from our subconscious mind is our analytical mind. Now you're opening the door and getting into the operating system where you can actually rewrite a program and rehearse a new script, right?
Which is your beliefs, is I think what you're suggesting.
Where all the hardwired beliefs, perceptions, attitudes, behaviors all exist.
So to be uber tactical, you're talking about an eyes open meditation where your periphery is engaged.
No, your eyes are closed.
So you're doing it eyes closed and you're watching the light show behind your eyes.
You're not watching any, you're focusing on absolutely nothing.
So the reason I was going to that is because it was a tactic I was using with cage fighters, UFC fighters, is that as a yin to their yang, we would do a meditation, eyes open meditation, which is actually really hard to do.
Yeah.
Eyes closed we're visual creatures. So it's when you close the eyes, a couple of things happen. One, your analytical, judgmental, critical mind can kick on pretty quickly, or you fall asleep. Right? And so what we're doing is eyes open and just having them like 3/4 of the way closed, I should say, and just engage their periphery. And keeping it as wide, non-judgmental as they possibly can, but just noticing as opposed to the narrow, attentional, hunting mode or survival mode of looking down the barrel of the gun or chasing something, in the wild, that narrow attention. So we would go from broad to narrow, and then stay broad as much as we can.
Yeah.
And that exercise, they would report quieting down their analytics because they're paying attention to space.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do it with your eyes open as well.
Which I think is exponentially harder. I thought that's what you were going, but you're saying eyes closed.
So we do it both.
You do.
We do it both, but for the sake of this conversation, just by closing your eyes and focusing on nothing, you can slip past the analytical mind. And when you're in alpha, you know this, you tend to see more in images and pictures. You're more creative, right? And then you can train a person to actually know the different brainwave states. And my definition of theta is when your body's resting in a light sleep and you're awake. And that's when the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open. This is the most suggestible state of the brain. It's a hypnotic state. If a person can sit and practice this, we discovered that the formula is relaxed and awake. Relaxed, the more relaxed you get in your heart, the more energy goes to the brain. Now, this is where like I'm completely a rookie in this part of the discussion. I was really surprised.
Which is how the heart and the brain work together. The heart and the mind.
I was really surprised. I was so surprised in seeing this because I was always a brain guy until I saw like every time the heart gets coherent, it influences the
And how do we measure heart coherence?
We measure them with all kinds of devices. We use what's called a bodyguard. Some people wear them for 24 hours. We're looking at them when they're sleeping. We're looking at them when they're eating. We're looking at them when they're doing their meditations. We're looking at them when we're signing a specific act during a meditation to see if they're actually doing it. So we can say to them, you're doing it or you're not doing it.
So it's measuring the electrical activity
It's
of the
measuring
heart?
the electrical activity. It's actually measuring the pulse,
It's not heart rate variability.
There is an element of heart rate variability to heart coherence, absolutely.
So there'd be an increase in variability.
Yes.
And there would be a what from an electrical standpoint? I don't know what the other measures would be.
So the sensors are picking up electromagnetic signals.
Right.
The heart, when it gets coherent, produces a magnetic field. And that magnetic field can be up to 3 meters wide. It is like a drum. It gets very coherent and it produces a magnetic field, a very measurable magnetic field. So it informs the brain to be creative, and it causes a kind of a frequency or energy is carrying information. So there's an emission of energy that's released from the heart. If a person can get relaxed in their heart and awaken their brain, you can train a person to get really good at this. It gets really crazy because what takes place from coherence is another phase called resonance. And resonance is when the brain is in delta and at the same time in theta and at the same time in alpha and at the same time in beta and high beta, and all of a sudden you have this very peak frequency called gamma, and that's super consciousness. So now the person is really relaxed in their heart, and instead of stressed out, unconscious, and programmed, somehow they tend to be way more conscious. So
this is the signature of aha, the signature of insight, the signature maybe of flow state as well.
it's another arousal. But instead of the arousal being fear,
That's right.
instead of the arousal being pain, instead of the arousal being aggression, the arousal is kind of like what you said. It's kind of like an ecstasy. It's kind of like a bliss. Like a person is like, this feels so good, I don't want to leave the moment. Like I want to stay right here. And what we want to do is get people to do that so well with their eyes closed that they can do it with their eyes open. And that's why we do walking meditations and things like that.
And so you've got a 7-day training. And then for somebody who doesn't have the ability to get to a location, whether I know you have one coming up in LA, can't get to California or whatever. What do you point them to increase?
Yeah, so we have a little course called The Formula.
Okay.
And it's like 30 minutes of content with 5 meditations, 12 different sessions. It's a great way to get the practice of heart coherence and brain coherence and then synchronize the two. And the 5 meditations are step by step. Work on the heart, work on the brain, work on the heart and the brain, and then take it to the next level. And then we have an online progressive workshop, like the same course we'll be doing in LA in January. You can watch it online and you can get, good 12, 14 hours of content, and you'll get 6 meditations and 4 hours of meditations, and you got a lot of tools to practice there. And it's a requirement for our community. In fact, I tell people, do not come to a week-long event. Do not come to a week-long event until you see the progressive workshop.
So do the online progressive workshop
They
first.
have to prepare.
Yeah.
Because we got bodies to heal, we got lives to change, we got futures to create. I mean, it was a very full week. I mean, I just finished one just this past week, and they're 6 in the morning till 7 or 7:30.
How many do you do?
We do about one a month. Yeah.